The PlayStation 3's journey is anything but straightforward. Unlike the runaway wins of the PS1 and PS2, this was a console that spent years clawing its way back from a rough start. Price problems, tricky hardware, and fierce competition made its climb an uphill fight, but one that eventually paid off in a big way. So how did Sony turn early missteps into a lasting success? Let's rewind and see how it all began.
Everyone, this is PlayStation 3.
Sony has unveiled its PlayStation 3 video game system.
It marks a new era in gaming with lifelike graphics and motion-sensing controls.
If you're not one of the people lined up right now, good luck getting your hands on one of these.
Police officers held back crowds waiting for special midnight openings.
He was kind of a Japanese Steve Jobs in that he had a vision.
Put half of the development community out of business.
Sony suffered an external intrusion, which forced their online network to shut down.
One of the largest digital data breaches in history.
Let the games begin.
The push to build a comeback machine started soon after the launch of PlayStation 2, with Shuhei Yoshida leading a team determined to figure out what next-generation gaming could really be. The project represented Sony's most ambitious hardware undertaking, built around the custom-designed Cell Broadband Engine processor that emerged from their collaboration with IBM and Toshiba. This 64-bit powerhouse featured a 3.2 GHz PowerPC-based power processing element alongside 7 synergistic processing elements, creating unprecedented processing capabilities for a home console. In December 2004, Sony teamed up with Nvidia to handle the graphics side, building what they called the RSX Reality Synthesizer. This chip worked alongside 256 megabytes of GDDR3 video memory and another 256 megabytes of super-fast XDR RAM tied to the Cell processor. Together, they gave the PS3 plenty of muscle, enough to run anything from old-school 480p all the way up to crisp 1080p. By early 2005, Sony had shifted its development focus toward preparing launch titles for their revolutionary system. Around that time, they locked in some big choices that would shape what the console stood for. One of the boldest moves was the decision that the PlayStation 3 would run on Blu-ray discs, making it the first gaming system to fully back this brand-new high-definition format. This decision positioned the PS3 as both a gaming machine and a premium home theater device, supporting DVDs and CDs alongside the cutting-edge Blu-ray format. The PlayStation 3 made its official debut on May 16, 2005, at E3, alongside a prototype 6-axis controller featuring an unusual boomerang-shaped design. No working hardware was present at this early showing, though demonstrations of Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots ran on software development kits and comparable PC hardware. Sony showcased concept footage based on projected system specifications, including a stunning Final Fantasy VII technical demonstration that hinted at the console's visual potential. The 2005 prototype included ambitious connectivity options: 2 HDMI ports, 3 Ethernet ports, and 6 USB ports. However, by E3 2006, cost-cutting measures had reduced these to 1 HDMI port, 1 Ethernet connection, and 4 USB ports. Sony announced 2 launch models, a premium 60GB version priced at $600 and a basic 20GB model at $500. The 60GB configuration would be the only version featuring HDMI output, Wi-Fi connectivity, flash card readers, and distinctive chrome trim, while the 20GB model offered more modest specifications to reach a lower price point. Even after trimming features to save money, the PS3 was still super pricey to build. The graphics chip alone was around $129, and the Blu-ray drive added another $125. Hauling the 20GB model cost about $805 to make, over $300 more than it sold for. The 60GB version wasn't far off, costing about $840 to build while selling for much less. With losses like that on every console, Sony ended up reporting a hit of roughly 232 billion yen, around $2 billion, in the year after launch. The console's physical design reflected Sony's premium aspirations. The original model utilized glossy piano black plastic and featured a logo inspired by the font used in the 2002 Spider-Man film, also produced by Sony. According to PlayStation designer Teiyu Goto, this logo was one of the first design elements selected by President Ken Kutaragi and helped shape the console's overall aesthetic direction. Sony's controller strategy evolved significantly during development. The standard controller at launch was the wireless 6-axis, featuring a built-in accelerometer capable of motion sensing across 3 directional and 3 rotational axes, 6 in total, hence the name. However, the 6-axis notably lacked vibration functionality, a decision that puzzled many longtime PlayStation fans accustomed to the rumble feature from previous DualShock controllers. The PlayStation 3 launched first in Japan on November 11, 2006, selling over 81,000 units within the first 24 hours despite limited availability. The North American launch followed on November 17th, where demand proved intense and incidents of violence were reported at various retail locations as consumers competed for limited stock. European gamers faced a longer wait, as Sony delayed the PAL region launch to March 23, 2007, due to shortages of Blu-ray drive components. The company also announced it would not sell the 20GB model in European markets. Despite the delay, the European launch proved successful, with the console selling 600,000 units across Europe in its first 2 days. The United Kingdom alone accounted for 165,000 units, making it the region's fastest-selling home console at that time. The PlayStation 3's early reception was decidedly mixed, largely due to its premium pricing that positioned it well above competitors. The $599 launch price for the 60GB model, equivalent to $930 in today's money, represented a significant investment for consumers. The $499 20GB version, while more affordable, still commanded $780 in current purchasing power. These prices stood in stark contrast to Microsoft's Xbox 360, which had launched a year earlier at lower price points, and Nintendo's innovative Wii, which would debut at an accessible $249. Critics gave Sony props for aiming high. The PS3's Blu-ray drive helped win the HD format war, and its 1080p output with HDMI made it a solid home theater machine. For devs who could wrangle the tricky cell chip, the power was there to push games further. However, the system's sophisticated hardware proved challenging for game developers to utilize effectively. The Cell processor's unique architecture, while powerful, required specialized programming techniques that many developers found difficult to master initially. This complexity contributed to a limited selection of compelling launch titles, with games like Resistance: Fall of Man and MotorStorm receiving mixed critical reception, despite showcasing the hardware's technical capabilities. The PlayStation 3's launch period represented both triumph and struggle for Sony. While the company had created genuinely innovative hardware that pushed technological boundaries, the high manufacturing costs, premium pricing, and development challenges created significant obstacles to widespread adoption. Sony's marketing strategy for the PlayStation 3 evolved dramatically throughout the console's life cycle, reflecting the company's learning curve in positioning this complex, expensive system to consumers. Initially, Sony marketed the PS3 as a comprehensive multimedia device, with the Play Beyond campaign, emphasizing its Blu-ray capabilities, wireless connectivity, and cell processor power through abstract white room advertisements, featuring surreal objects reacting to the console's advanced technologies. However, Sony Computer Entertainment president Kaz Hirai later acknowledged this approach created confusion. "We focused too much on other aspects of the PS3, and there was confusion over what the machine was. I have scaled everything back and have been repositioning the PS3 first and foremost as a video games console. The pivotal shift came with the It Only Does Everything campaign in 2009, featuring the fictional Kevin Butler character portrayed by Jerry Lambert, who served as various PlayStation executives responding to consumer queries with humor and gaming culture awareness.
Dear PlayStation, my grandma won't stop watching Blu-ray movies on my PS3.
Look, for $299, you don't just get a sweet gaming machine. It's like you get the best Blu-ray player around built in for free. You know how old people like free stuff.
Yeah, but
You know what she did for fun when she was your age? She pushed a hoop with a stick.
But I want to play...
With a stick.
I've been waiting...
Stick.
PS3, now $299.
PlayStation.
Butler's popularity led to live E3 appearances and the subsequent Long Live Play campaign, while Sony also launched experiential marketing through PS3 venues in major cities and the This Is Living European campaign, demonstrating the console as part of everyday life rather than just gaming. These marketing evolution reflected Sony's recognition that despite the PS3's impressive multimedia capabilities, success ultimately depended on establishing its identity as a premium gaming platform first. The real turning point arrived in 2008 when the PS3 began to produce games that could only exist on its powerful but complex architecture. Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots set the tone. Hideo Kojima's sprawling, movie-like finale to the Solid Snake saga wasn't just a game. It was an interactive film, using the Cell processor to deliver incredible visuals and lengthy, dramatic cutscenes that blurred the line between cinema and gameplay. For many players, it was the first unmistakable proof that the PS3's technical gamble was paying off. Meanwhile, Sony's own first-party studios were hitting their stride. Uncharted: Drake's Fortune, which had debuted in late 2007, introduced the wisecracking treasure hunter Nathan Drake and a new brand of blockbuster action. Its sequel, Uncharted 2: Among Thieves, released in 2009, was a revelation. With its iconic opening sequence of Drake escaping a derailed train dangling over a cliff and its seamless mix of climbing, puzzle-solving, and gunfights, the game set a new bar for cinematic storytelling and production values. Critics and fans alike hailed it as one of the greatest action-adventure games of all time, and it quickly became a defining reason to own a PS3. Innovation flourished elsewhere as well. Little Big Planet, launched in 2008, invited players to become creators, offering a charming physics-based platformer that doubled as a powerful design tool. Players built and shared their own levels, and its 2011 sequel Little Big Planet 2 expanded that creativity, letting the community design everything from racing games to puzzle adventures. These titles captured a playful, collaborative spirit that stood apart from the gritty realism dominating many contemporary games. While the games were getting stronger, Sony also worked on the hardware itself. In September 2009 came the PlayStation 3 Slim, a redesigned console that was 33% smaller, 36% lighter, and far more energy efficient than the launch model. Manufacturing improvements cut production costs dramatically, allowing Sony to drop the price to a far more accessible $299. The Slim helped the PS3 shed its expensive luxury image and open the door to millions of new players. Around the same time, Sony updated the system's software to support stereoscopic 3D gaming and 3D Blu-ray movies, while the optional PlayStation Move motion controller and camera experimented with motion-based play to compete with Nintendo's Wii and Microsoft's Kinect. Even though motion gaming never became the PS3's signature, these steps kept the platform feeling fresh and versatile. By 2011, the PS3's game library had blossomed into one of the strongest of its generation. God of War 3 unleashed epic mythological combat and screen-filling bosses that showcased the console's raw processing muscle. Infamous offered a superhero sandbox where choices shaped the story and the city around you. Killzone 2 wowed shooter fans with visuals that rivaled high-end PCs, and Heavy Rain pushed interactive storytelling with branching narratives and unprecedented motion capture performances. Racing fans finally got their dream game with Gran Turismo 5, which arrived after years of anticipation, sporting more than 1,000 meticulously detailed cars and physics that pushed every part of the Cell processor. Meanwhile, Sony's growing PlayStation Store was becoming a vital platform of its own, hosting everything from big DLC expansions to daring indie projects. Smaller digital-first games like Super Stardust HD found loyal audiences and foreshadowed the indie boom that would explode in the next console generation. As the decade rolled on, the PS3 reached a creative peak. Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto V, still one of the best-selling games ever, redefined open-world scale and freedom. From Software's Dark Souls turned punishing challenge into a new design philosophy that would influence countless games to come. Bethesda's The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim delivered an immense living fantasy world that players could lose themselves in for hundreds of hours. Then in 2013 came a masterpiece that many consider the console's crown jewel, The Last of Us. Developed by Naughty Dog, it fused stealth and survival gameplay with deeply human storytelling. The journey of Joel and Ellie across a post-pandemic America captured both critical acclaim in the hearts of millions, winning countless Game of the Year awards, and redefining what narrative in a video game could be. Its cinematic production values and emotional depth ensured it would be remembered not just as a PS3 highlight, but as one of the greatest games of all time. Other standout releases reinforced the PS3's status as a powerhouse of creativity. Portal 2 turned physics puzzles into comedy gold. Batman: Arkham City set a new high bar for superhero games. And Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch, with art from Studio Ghibli, brought a hand-painted elegance to RPG storytelling. Even late in the console's life, new experiences kept surprising players, from the dazzling action of Beyond Two Souls to the endless possibilities of Minecraft, which found a huge home on Sony's platform. Sony wasn't just shipping great games, it was reshaping how players accessed them. In 2010, it launched PlayStation Plus, a subscription service that offered free monthly games, early beta access, cloud saves, and member discounts. Plus eventually became a cornerstone of the PlayStation experience and inspired competitors to rethink their own online strategies. By September 2009, the PlayStation Store had already logged more than 600 million downloads, and by early 2019, the PS3 had sold close to 1 billion games worldwide, proof that its library had both commercial stamina and critical acclaim. What defined this era wasn't sheer quantity, but the mix of ideas. The PS3 became a place where big-budget spectacle and indie artistry thrived together. Developers who once wrestled with the Cell processor learned to harness its parallel power, opening the door to everything from high-octane shooters and sprawling open worlds to quiet, emotional journeys. By the time the next generation arrived, the PS3's reputation had flipped. What began as a costly, complex gamble ended as one of gaming's richest and most diverse libraries. Landmark titles like Uncharted 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, Dark Souls, and The Last of Us didn't just entertain. They reshaped how games are designed and how stories are told. September 2012 brought another significant hardware revision with the PlayStation 3 Super Slim model, representing Sony's final refinement of the console's design. This third iteration achieved remarkable miniaturization, becoming approximately 20% smaller and 25% lighter than the previous Slim model while featuring reduced power consumption. The most noticeable change was the replacement of the slot-loading disk drive with a top-loading mechanism, a cost-cutting measure that drew criticism from reviewers who described it as feeling cheap and ultimately a step back. Despite this functional compromise, the Super Slim was offered with larger storage options, including 250 gigabytes and 500 gigabytes hard drives, plus a budget-friendly 12-gigabyte flash storage model available in PAL regions. The 2011 PlayStation Network breach was a low point, knocking online play offline for weeks and exposing data from millions of accounts. Sony eventually bounced back with a welcome-back package of free games and PlayStation Plus time, but it was a serious test of trust. Yet even as Sony dealt with that crisis, the PS3 was quietly proving its worth in some surprising places. Researchers and even the U.S. Air Force were already tapping its powerful cell processor for scientific projects and supercomputing experiments. Showing the console's reach went far beyond living room gaming. Some of those projects even invited everyday players to help out. Sony and Stanford University launched Folding at Home, letting PS3 owners donate spare processing power to protein folding research for disease studies. But these creative uses didn't last forever. Later, hardware updates dropped support for running other operating systems. The original PS3 had shipped with another OS option so users could install Linux alongside the main software. But by 2010, Sony had removed it from slim models and pushed a firmware update that disabled it everywhere, citing security concerns. That move didn't sit well with players. Many felt Sony had yanked a feature they'd paid for, and a wave of class action lawsuits followed. A U.S. court threw out the main case in 2011, but in 2014 an appeals court brought parts of it back, keeping the fight going a while longer. And then trouble came. Some early models suffered the dreaded yellow light of death, Sony's own twist on Microsoft's infamous red ring of death. In 2009, the BBC's Watchdog claimed many consoles were dying 18 to 24 months in, but Sony put the number closer to 0.5%, and a SquareTrade report estimated about 10% failures over 2 years. Pretty normal for consumer electronics. But it didn't end there. On March 1, 2010, a glitch fans nicknamed the Apocalypse PS3 suddenly locked people out of the PlayStation Network, froze games, and even reset system clocks to December 31, 1999. Sony later explained it was a leap year bug in the internal clock. By the next day, most consoles fixed themselves, but a few owners had to set the time manually, and a later firmware update made sure it wouldn't happen again. By late 2013, the spotlight shifted to the brand new PlayStation 4, and the PS3's long run started winding down. Sony gradually slowed production, ending shipments in most regions by 2016. In Japan, the console's final stronghold, manufacturing carried on a little longer until May 29, 2017, when the very last PlayStation 3 rolled off the line after more than a decade. In the end, the numbers tell it all. After a messy, overpriced launch and years of hard lessons, the PS3 pulled it together, shipping around 87.5 million units, edging out the Xbox 360 and selling close to 1 billion games by 2019. The system also left a true collectible legacy. From the white Final Fantasy XIII Slim to other limited editions celebrating major releases, special models remain prized by fans and collectors. Above all, the PS3 redefined what a console could be, combining games, high-definition video, and online connectivity in one powerful, if sometimes unrefined, entertainment hub that helps shape the next generation of gaming. If you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a like and subscribe. It really means a lot to us. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. See you next time.